The idea that the Pokemon market is now cooling off or anything like that, no, that's not the case. If anything, it's getting hotter. This is probably the set that I became most familiar with any Marvel card was the 1990 Impel, the Marvel Universe set, right?
Yes, Marvel Universe Series 1.
Still have a box of this at home. I sold one actually recently for, I want to say it was like $800 or something like that. So they still seal.
Nice.
They still do decent money. Spider-Man 2013 Fleer Retro PMG out of 10 sold for $168,000 on May 21st of 2022. Welcome to another episode of Hobby Nonsense, everybody. My name is Jesse Gibson. I am your host of the show, and I would like to go ahead and say that this is at least my fourth take to start the show. I don't know why I'm getting so tongue-tied. I'm thinking too much about what this show is going to be today, and I'm excited actually for it. So I've decided instead of going into all of the detail, I'm just going to hit you with the quick facts of what we're going to talk about, and then let's just dive in. What do you say? We're going to talk about upcoming releases. We're going to talk about some actual new releases that are already out. And then we're going to talk about Marvel cards, but also some Pokemon as well. So there you go. That is your show. That is what we're going to be discussing today. We already talked in the last couple episodes, I think, of the Star Wars Galactic Antiquities release from Topps. I had the opportunity to break some of this product over the last week since the last episode. As someone who actually got to open the case, look at all the cards, the artwork, I think there were 4 different cases. Let me go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Yes, it is an expensive product. I cannot necessarily say this product is for everybody because for most people, including myself, we're doing this as either a random card or a hit draft, which just means when you're breaking this open to make it more affordable to individuals, you're allowing them to buy a single card in the box as opposed to the entire box. And that means that these boxes that are going for retail around $3,500, I had mine much less. I think a lot of people had them less than that, but still many had them. Even when you add up all the break spots over 3,000, I had mine pretty low. I think mine was around 2,500, but that's still coming out to be around 275 to 300 bucks a spot. I will say we are getting some resupply. I'm going to be doing more breaks of this week. By the time this episode comes out, I'll probably be in the middle of a break on Fanatics Live. Those spots are going to be more just because the resupply costs more to get more of that product. All of that being said, let's get costs out of the way. We've discussed it. When you actually have an opportunity to look at the card, to hold the card, to open a box, it is a premium product. There is no question about it. The product itself is very nice. The cards themselves are very nice. I don't see any flaws as far as printing goes. They're printed on, I would say, some of the best materials. The fact that it's not just cardboard, it is going to be on metal, wood, the Beskar metal. I don't know what the difference in metal types is, and maybe it's the exact same and just different coloring, but you can definitely tell the difference in the Beskar metal versus the other metal cards that are included in there. The fact that you're getting at least 5 autos per case. The cards are selling on secondary markets on eBay for, I'm actually surprised at how high they are selling. Like, honestly, they are selling very, very well. For even base cards, say a base metal card, so that's going to be a little higher, of Ray. Ray is $300, but then you've got like cards that are just base paper cards. They're selling $99, $150 for characters that are much less known. Miggs Mayfield, Quill, if these names don't mean anything to you, I apologize. Those are some of the cheapest reselling cards. Many of the other ones are selling for upwards of thousands of dollars for the autos, very low numbered autos in most cases. It's not for everybody. Like I said, it's not for everybody, but it is very nice and I like it a lot. And the boxes smell like new shoes. It smells like you just opened something that is valuable. That's the best way I can put it. It's so weird. But having like gold frames, wooden cards, the throwback 1977 cards, having characters and people signing on this product that you don't typically see. Like Simon Pegg, this is the first time I think he's signed on a Star Wars product. It's very cool. It's very cool. So all that being said, I like it a lot. I think it will be a classic for a number of years. I do think there's going to be people who will have issues with the fact of certain people not signing in it, as well as the overall price, but market dictates price. And at this point, that's people are still willing to pay what they're paying. So that being said, that is one of the newest releases that is out, but there's a couple other releases that are coming out this week that I think you guys should know about, because they're not only exciting, but they're also, I don't know, I feel like this is going to be something that could be bigger. The one in particular I'm thinking about is the Upper Deck Halo release. So Halo, very popular Xbox video game. It came out, the original set came out in 2007. Topps produced it. Those cards are still actively being sold. There's not a ton of them out there. So I think that's probably helping for the resale value. Some Master Chief, which is the main character in the video game, those cards are selling as a PSA 10 for $600-700. Some of them have gone upwards of $900. I'm talking not just sales like in 2022, but I'm talking about sales in the last 6 months or less, some in this year. These are cards, again, that are actively being sold. There's been a little bit of, I don't know, controversy is the right word, but it has been delayed quite a bit. This was originally supposed to come out in 2023. Right now, I'm seeing box pricing from Dave and Adams. I think that's the only one I was able to find who's already pricing this product. They're selling it at $150. Definitely better than what you can get a 2007 box for. I think the 2007 boxes, they're still charging, I think the last one sold $600 January 25th, $800 on February 3rd. They don't come up all that often, but when they do, they're pretty high priced. Halo's obviously got a lot of popularity, not only with the video games, but there's a TV series that's rated very high. I actually haven't seen it. I am curious if you guys have watched it, if you guys like that show. But that being said, there's enough popularity to garner another card set. We will see how well it does. But that is one of the new non-sport releases that comes out this week. Another release that comes out this week, you've got 2024 Leaf History Pop-Up Culture Edition. I love Pop Century. I love Leaf Pop Century. I've gotten a chance to open it, not just for myself, but for others the last couple years. I enjoy breaking the product because you never know what you're going to get in there. Some autos have been huge. I've been able to pull Margot Robbie a couple times. I've pulled Chris Pratt a couple times. Kevin McAllister, a.k.a. Macaulay Culkin. The number of autos in there from big names like Clint Eastwood and others, it is pretty cool. It is exciting. They do have some nice resale value as well. But I feel like we're getting closer and closer to the point of like, hey, this is coming out so high that it's becoming more and more difficult to get any money for this, if that's your intention. If you're just going to keep it, whatever. If it's worth it, right? But if you're going to try and flip any of these products, or, you just don't want a couple of the cards that you happen to get in a box, you want to resell them and try and get some money. There's nothing wrong with that. How are you going to do that when they're coming out at $600+ a box? Now, granted, this specific one is not Pop Century. Depending on the book that you get, it could have 8 autos in it from multiple different people, including a number of the people I named. The list they show on here is Clint Eastwood, Samuel L. Jackson, Margot Robbie, Natalie Portman, Sylvester Stallone, Paul Rudd, Kate Beckinsale, Kevin Bacon, Anthony Hopkins, Al Pacino, and many more. So you could have all of these people signing on a single card, or it may just be one auto or somewhere in between. The artwork looks more premium, I guess. They are looking a little bit nicer than some past cards that I've seen. This is one of those where it's like, maybe I would love to be proven wrong. I'd love to see when this comes out that not only is it well received despite the cost, but it's also resale is going to hold up against what it comes out at. So time will tell. That is one that I did not get any to break personally. I am getting some Pop Century when it comes out, I think in May. But that's kind of the other thing though, right? These two products like this, because they've had a couple of them like this, and Pop Century, they kind of cannibalize each other to where it's like, oh, well, it used to be, everyone's kind of known Leaf has so many one-of-ones, right? Like there's a number of variations of one-of-ones. Granted, you're seeing more and more other card companies come out with so many one-of-ones too. That's a discussion for a different day. But when we're talking about celebrity autos on these Leaf cards, a Margot Robbie would come out at like $2,000. I don't know. I'm hoping like a booklet, you could resell one for $2,000 or something if it was all Margot Robbie or someone similar. But it's just the fact that we have so many of them these days, it's starting to make me a little concerned that the resale won't be there, or at least it's coming down at the same time that retail is coming up. Another product that is coming out here shortly, I did want to just mention, or at least a few products that are going to be coming out in the next few weeks. For all of you Garbage Pail Kid fans, you GPK heads out there, I don't know if that's a real nickname for you, but it should be. That it comes out at $75 a box retail. I think that's fun, right? Like something that's not crazy expensive. I mean, you can get blasters for like $20, so it's not, you don't have to spend all your money on a hobby box. I think hobby boxes include a few additional things, including like some sketches and some artist autos on there. That'll be fun. I actually did get a case of that. I'm not trying to plug all of my breaks by any means, but it's just I get non-sport products, and that's one of the ones that are coming out this week. Star Wars Hyperspace, we talked about that right with Aaron Abrams from Topps the other week. That one is going to be a lot of fun, I think, especially for the diehard collectors. I look forward to seeing more from that one, and that one's going to be much more affordable for your everyday Star Wars fan out there as well. There's a Cheers, the classic TV show Cheers, where everybody knows your name. We all know it. I don't have to sing it. I'm thinking about it, but I'm not going to. They have a product coming out. I will just say, Woody Harrelson did not sign in it. That's sad. Ted Danson did. Ratzenberger, who is prominent in the Star Wars Antiquities boxes that I open, he signed in it, and a number of other big Cheers names signed in it. But unfortunately, Woody Harrelson did not. However, they do have patches, some clothing pieces in there. This here, you know what? There, now you can say I'm not a shill. I don't have any of that. I'm not going to be breaking any of it, but I do think it's cool for all of you Cheers fans out there. That one's going to be coming out at about $150 a box. Comes out on February 26th. Curious if the resale is there, if that's something you're only looking for one specific character and you want to sell the rest of them. But either way, $150. Not the worst in the world. Last thing before we get into our section with Mike Midgette. Mike Midgette, who was on our first episode, he's coming back to talk Marvel because he knows a ton about Marvel. I've done a little research myself. We're going to try and educate you guys on the different sets, what's collectible, what's most valuable, other things like that. I'm going to call it the Mike Midgette Marvel Minute. So Pokemon pricing, right? We talk about Pokemon every episode, and I think it's just going to be a thing. I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to acknowledge it. After this moment, no more. I'm just going to talk about it. Pokemon pricing is through the roof. We'll talk more because Mike was at the Nashville card show that I was at this last week, where Pokemon was a big thing. We'll talk more about that there. But I have been looking at a few cards, specifically. You've got the Umbreon, aka Moonbreon, that came out of the Prismatic Evolutions box. Those that had sold in the 5 figures are finally coming down. And I was going to say coming down back to earth, but it's really not. I was looking through some of the top sales in the month of February for Pokemon cards that are more recent cards, like things that have printed since, say, 2021 and after. That definitely is still one of the highest, the one that's most recent in the Prismatic Evolution set. But at $1,500 for a raw card, it's much better than what it was, which was, again, I think one may have even sold for up to $15,000. $1,500, it's coming down to earth, but it's not crashing, which is actually making me feel really good. Like I'm glad to see it's also not staying in the 5-figure range, because I'd really say that's all market manipulation at that point. It wouldn't make any sense to see that one card staying so high without any direct news as to why it would be like that. The idea that the Pokemon market is now cooling off or anything like that, no, that's not the case. If anything, it's getting hotter. I keep hearing more and more sports guys looking into Pokemon cards. I think the idea that is being spread around is like, there's less supply out there. They're not going to print as much, creating more demand for what's already out there. I don't know how much of that is actually real or it's just like, news that's circulating around the hobby market. But whatever it is, it's definitely helping to propel those cards and those products. It has continued. I think it will continue for at least the foreseeable future, as the next couple of releases are getting lined up to come out here shortly. But I'll continue to give updates on that as we go. Messages that I end up getting, I would say in the last week, the most consistent thing is, did you see this? And it's the Larry David auto news. So be aware, keep an eye out for it. I'm sure it'll be very valuable, but despite that, I just want it for my own personal collection. So there's your news. Let's get to Mike Midgette's Marvel Minute, shall we? We were both at the National Card Show here in Nashville over the last weekend. What'd you think about it?
I mean, it was fun. Friday, I got to go later in the day after my full-time job, walk around, and I was spending most of the time Saturday helping a friend's Mana's booth. So
you can mention Shep. He's a friend of the show.
So I was helping Shep and Mana's booth, and it was fun. It was nice interacting with some people. Did notice a lot more presence of non-sports Pokemon TCG stuff, and it's as the National has grown, the amount of non-sports and Pokemon and all that has grown with it. And I thought, it was
for
cool.
Sure. I think so too. I think, and so I was there on Friday. I was on my way Saturday. I got held up helping a friend. And so I ended up not being able to go down there on Saturday. So I didn't get to see, I heard it was much busier on Saturday. Yeah. And it was very busy on Friday, but I can only imagine what it would have been like on Saturday, based on Mike, who was down there, my other counterpart on the Sports Cards Nonsense podcast. But we were talking about how everybody was coming after Pokemon. Like I had brought the Blooming Waters boxes that came from Costco, the ones that everybody was like throwing elbows, trying to fight each other over. I had 8 of those that I brought down there on Friday morning. By noon, I would say all of them were gone, and I sold them. Actually, I sold 2 to a guy who was coming by just looking, and he saw them there. I made him a decent deal. I think I sold him for like $110 or something like that.
You scalper.
I mean, I absolutely. Yes, I did. And I'm okay if anybody wants to do it.
That's the way the market is, man.
There were plenty of people who had Pokemon there. I actually never like to be the highest price, and I don't want to be the lowest. I want to be somewhere in the meaty middle.
Yeah.
When our boy over at Nate over at Grand Slam Collectibles, he had come over and he had a sign just saying like, I'm buying Pokemon. He came over and he saw him and he bought the other 6 boxes that I had there. And then I had like some ETBs that those got taken almost immediately. The only thing that I think wasn't moving quite as quickly were just the singles, but the singles that I brought weren't graded. So it's like, I get that. That's going to be a little bit harder to move. And plus I wasn't even there Saturday. So that being said, I could not believe just how much Pokemon was being moved. My buddy, who I cannot remember the business, he has all of these graded music cards that I hate that I didn't get down there to see. But I know he was there because several people said, hey, did you go down there and check him out? I saw him a couple years ago at the show. I was glad to see the influx of non-sport love at that show. And I keep hearing about that at other shows too.
Yeah.
Have you seen any other non-sport collectibles that you've been checking out lately? Anything that tickles your fancy?
Some nice toy hunts lately.
Really? Tell me about that.
So where they hold the Lighthouse show here locally.
Yes.
They are now starting to do a toy show every few months. First one was beginning of February. Next one's going to be in May.
Really?
And it was kind of small, but for the first time show, it was nice.
Yeah. Well, I keep hearing, and that's one of the reasons when I started this show, I was like, oh, well, we'll do non-sport cards and collectibles because inevitably I would like to expand to talk more about the collectible toy world as well. And just are Legos a toy?
Yes.
I would say yes, but I don't know. It feels funny to just call it a toy and just lump it into that category. I feel like Legos are its own thing almost. But
if you have an imagination, then Legos are awesome.
They're an architectural building block. People have built homes out of Legos, I would assume.
It's a lot of glue.
It just makes me think like Lego and a few other collectibles out there to call it a toy makes it feel childish. But at the same time, let's just call a spade a spade. It's something that you have fun with. And I'm okay calling it a toy because I like toys as an adult. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I collect vintage stuff, so anything really early 80s to early 90s, G.I. Joe, Transformers, stuff from when I was a kid.
Did you do, you said Ninja Turtles was a thing for you.
I still collect Ninja Turtles. Really? One of the things I picked up at that show was a lunchbox for the cartoon Mask.
Oh,
it had the thermos with it, so I was like, "Yeah, why not?"
Mask, that was the Jim Carrey movie that they did a cartoon out of.
Mask with the transforming cars and helmets.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
That cartoon had like the most '80s theme song ever.
Yeah, I don't know the nostalgia that gets built into a lot of that stuff. The cards are very cool, and it does help fulfill that need for my nostalgia dopamine hit. But there's also the toys, action figures, like. I keep seeing there's somebody on it, the algorithm knows me too well on Instagram, like some of these shops that are printing out like retro 90s cartoon tees like Darkwing Duck and a few others. I'm like, I actually went to their shops and I was going to buy and it was sold out. So, hey, you lost the sale, buddy, whoever you were, random Instagram shop. But yeah, it's something I need.
You mentioned nostalgia. I mean, Dynamite Press just came out with a 40th anniversary Transformers card set.
Oh, really?
Using a lot of the artwork from the original toy packages, promo artwork, toys. They included sketch cards, autograph cards of some of the creators of Transformers from the comics and stuff like that. So that was fun. I've opened a couple of boxes. I still haven't pulled a sketch card, but I've pulled a couple of the autos.
Oh, really? Where are you getting it from? Does Shep sell it or somewhere else?
Pretty much Kickstarter. They did a version of the set that you could get off Kickstarter.
Oh,
they have a couple different versions of it. Some that come on a traditional card stock, like cardboard card stock.
Mm-hmm.
Then your more modern card stock with them. They have foil cards with it, metal cards.
Oh, okay.
I still haven't pulled one. I don't know if they come from just the Kickstarter set or whatnot, but
I do know a number of friends and family members that have big Star Wars collections, not just like cards or anything, but actual collectible action figures. And because I mean, if you get a Transformer, I would say it's like, do you want a card or do you want like a bot that changes into a vehicle or a building, I guess, in some way. It always reminds me of like
you watched Big, didn't you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, all I can think of is the big building Transformer. All right, guys, this brings us now to the Marvel segment of our show, the aforementioned Mike Midgette's Marvel Minute. Mike has agreed that he's totally on board and he loves that name. But here's gonna be the honest truth. I was jumping all over the place so badly when we first talked about Marvel that I actually asked Mike, can we go back and redo this to where we can do this in a more cohesive way? Because I feel like there's just so much Marvel product that I was getting into the weeds and throwing curveballs to where it was kind of hard to keep this conversation moving in a forward direction where it wasn't going to be hard to listen to. So we're just going to kind of hit a few of the big Marvel sets, and in the future we can talk about other side ones, but these are going to be the ones that are most notable, most collectible to the collecting audience, unless you're just like into the niche, little card sets that not as many people have heard of, right? So that being said, I've asked Mike to bear with me because we're going to talk about the stickers that came out in 1976 from Topps, because I think that's kind of like what a lot of people have recognized as some of the earliest cards, quote unquote, even though we're establishing their stickers, right?
Yeah.
But that's, a lot of people consider that like the Garbage Pail Kids. Those were all stickers initially, but we treat them like cards in a way. And then that's where, did you collect any of those growing up?
I had several Garbage Pail Kids. I couldn't remember exactly which series I had. I know I still have my Atom Bomb.
Oh, do you really?
Yes. I have the one they did of Dr. Frankenfurter, but I can't remember what the name they gave him from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, wow. That's really cool, though. Those are some of the more, I guess, iconic ones. The Atom Bomb, is that good? Like,
Atom Bomb was value, Series 1, yeah.
That's one of the most valuable
I think that was actually card number 1 in the first series. That's why it's...
Dude, that's awesome. Wow.
I mean, mine's not in great shape.
Yeah, well...
it was one I picked up, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, keep a hold of it. You never know. But let's go to the Marvel side of things, though. Did you ever collect any of the 1976 Marvel stickers?
I did.
That was before your time,
yes,
I would assume,
before I was born, unfortunately.
Yes, okay. So,
but I have opened a couple of packs, and so I've got some. Again, the condition on those 70s stickers, they're off-centered.
Yeah.
We were kids, they're not going to be in great shape.
Nobody, and that's the thing. No one cared back then if it was centered or not, right? Like that wasn't a care for most people. Granted, there was a time where some of those stickers were going for a few hundred, maybe. I think I saw some graded sets that went into the thousands, but it's never been like a gigantic, huge valuable set to collect. It doesn't look like. And these days you can buy them still. I guess they printed those things to the moon because you can still buy some of those stickers for relatively cheap. I mean, a box is going for a few $100s, but there are individual sticker cards that you can get, I guess, on eBay for, I think I sell some for like $1 or $2 here and there. So if you want them, you can go out there and get them. But that's kind of like the first take of Marvel or Topps, at least getting into the Marvel universe. There are some earlier things, but that's maybe one of the more well-known earlier sets. But let's fast forward, and we're going to jump to, this is probably the set that I became most familiar with any Marvel card, was the 1990 Impel, the Marvel Universe set, right?
Yes, Marvel Universe Series 1.
Now, Marvel Universe Series 1, and I have double-checked, there are 5 iterations of this. It came out each year, 1990, 91, 92, 93, 94. I know the 1991 because I actually still have a box of this at home. I sold one actually recently for, I want to say it was like $800 or something like that. So they still sealed.
Nice.
They still do decent money. That one was a little bit more unique though too, because that one had cards in it that sets didn't have before. The hollows, or it wasn't, it's not a hollow. What is it? Is
it's a hologram.
It is a hologram card.
Yeah.
Okay. A hollow today, I think some people would just refer to that as maybe like a refractor in some cases, but no, this was an actual hologram that as you moved it, it like looked like they were moving on the card itself. Those cards were like the big chase cards, right?
Yes.
All right.
You had 5 of them in the set. You had Cosmic Spider-Man, Wolverine, Magneto, Silver Surfer, and then Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin.
Pretty impressed that you remember that off the top of your head. He's not looking at anything. So that's actually kind of impressive. Those cards were very cool. I know that they come with, I don't know if every box comes with 5 I thought it was 4 holograms. So I don't think you can get all of them in a single box.
I bought a box about a year or so ago and opened it only because I got a really good deal on it, and I pulled 4 of the 5.
Okay, so it is 4 cards 4 holograms in there. But the problem is, of course, to get one of those holograms in, like I say, a gem mint condition, because the centering is almost always off on all of those. Yeah, that was always the issue that I've found. Every time we've tried to open a box to try and like recoup value and or just see if we can get like a really nice version of it, that is the issue, is centering.
Centering and surface. The hologram on those was on the face of the pack, and with the hologram facing out. So anytime the pack is handled, it could get scuffing on it. And then with the centering, it was a sticker on the card itself. So they were put on by hand and very difficult to find centered appropriately.
Okay. All right. That actually makes a lot more sense because I was trying to think, like, I couldn't remember why we always seem to have like little scratches or lines or something on there. I'm also looking at some of the pricing on these 1990 Impel holograms. Now, granted, 2022, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go, that was like the year that Marvel exploded. 2021 was when, and 2020 to some extent, but 2021, January, February, that's when like the sports card world hit its peak, but the Marvel card world hit its peak in 2022. And it's hard to say the exact date because as you look around, there were some sales like the PMGs, the Marvel PMGs that we will get into. I'm not going to just jump all the way to it because I've done that before. But those sold in the 6-figure range. But this set specifically, it had holograms where it was a complete set of all 5 of them as PSA 9s, September 2022. That entire set of PSA 10s plus PSA 9 holograms sold for $18,000.
Wow.
But a single Spider-Man v Green Goblin, or just Goblin, I guess in that case,
$9K,
that sold for $9,000 in June of last year. So, and then there was another one in June of last year that sold for $7,000 for the plain Spider-Man hologram as a PSA 10. That just goes to show you what people are willing to pay for a PSA 10 because they are that hard to get. I think
on the holograms themselves, all of them except for one are single-digit pops.
Really?
For 10s.
That's so crazy to me.
I think maybe the Wolverine has like right at 10.
Oh, really?
Or the last I checked. Last I checked.
But still, ridiculously low numbers. And that was also the set that had the really cool piece of Stan Lee, the card that had Stan Lee on
Mr.
there.
Marvel, the Stan Lee rookie card.
I still really, that's one of the ones that I've been chasing myself. I've been looking for a Stan Lee. But that one actually, I remember that one going for at least $500 or more at one point. I don't know if it would still go for that high, but again,
it's about $130 card.
As of right now,
the box I opened, I submitted 3 of them, got 2 8s and a 10.
You got a 10?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude! Actually, hang on now. You may need to double check there. Well, let's see. This is. Oh, you know what? It's an auto. I was gonna say one of these sold for like $900, but it was autographed by Stan Lee. More recently, I guess, the Stan Lee PSA 10s. You're looking at well, that's a CGC. Yeah, it looks like it's in the $100, $150 range, something like that. Okay, well, that's not bad though. $150. It's just, it stinks when you knew it was going for like $500 back in the day. Again, that is one of the ones that I think a lot of guys kind of came into the Marvel collecting world.
Right.
Was the 1990 set. After that, did the other ones? Do you remember if they did very well? The other sets.
Series 2 is pretty iconic as well for the card design.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So Series 1 and Series 2, I think more so than anything else was the card design, is what a lot of people remember. Series 3 had more of a spatial background to it, with usually a triangle, square, circle behind, and then the character.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Now, Series 3 had probably the best hologram out of them all because that had a Spider-Man versus Venom hologram.
Venom versus Spider-Man 1993 Skybox Marvel. This says just raw goes for $50. I wonder what a PSA 10 these days goes for. As a PSA 10, I guess it's very difficult to come up with. I don't see any graded ones in the last couple years or so. As a 9, you can get $200 or so. That's not bad, but it's a very cool looking card. It's one I think a lot of Marvel collectors have probably seen, but didn't know what set it came from. I guess the first few years of the 90s, the Impel / Skybox, the Marvel Universe cards kind of dominated the collecting scene, I would say.
Right.
And then that's when we moved over into, also around that time, the Marvel Masterpieces.
Oh, yeah.
Now that was done by Fleer, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
there's still Skybox Fleer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's, Fleer, Skybox. Yes. So in 92 was the first Marvel Masterpieces. Yes. Okay. That one, did you collect that one as well?
Yes.
Do you still have any of your Marvel Masterpieces?
Got a complete set of 92 through 95.
You have complete sets?
Yes.
Really?
Complete sets. 96 is the one that has eluded me. Just it's the lowest print run out of all of them.
Oh, okay. So 96 is the lowest print run. What do you like about Marvel Masterpieces?
The artwork. It's not traditional comic artists. You get a lot of fantasy artists. The Hildebrands. You had Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell did a series. Joe Jusko did another series of them.
All right. So I, of course, know who all these people are, but for the listening audience who might not, who are some of these people?
They're traditionally fantasy artwork painters.
Oh, okay.
And that was the selling point for Masterpieces. There was painters doing the artwork.
Gotcha.
Series 1 would have a lot of like action shots. The Captain America that said had the bald eagle head in the background with Captain America coming at you with his shield. Which is
cool.
Is
okay.
Awesome. Stuff like that. You got really good images of the Hulk, and I want to say, was it 93 did the hollows, the holofoils subset. It was like 10, and then you had 3 different versions. You had the silver, you had the bronze, and you had the gold.
Someone sent me those. A listener sent me those a few years ago, and I recently, because they were given to me, I did it as a giveaway. I gave away some of. I think I gave away all, but maybe one of them, and I really am sad about it. But at the same time, like, they are just so cool. I felt like I needed to share the wealth. Those are some of my favorite. And that is funny that you're saying like they are done by like painting like artists and stuff like that. Cause that's what it felt like. It felt like, I guess the closest comparison right now I can think of is when I opened up the Star Wars Galaxy product that came out last year, just a few months ago or so. That was all done by like individual artists,
yes.
And people who are classically trained. That was some of the most art forward cards I had seen, and it reminded me of these Masterpiece cards. That was the original, I guess, idea to make them more like high class version of Marvel. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I still find it hard to come across the 3D, the 5D, the 4Ds. The only one that I know that, or only 2 I have the Wolverine Sabretooth, and I have the Venom Spider-Man.
I had all of them. I had like all of the whatever. Is it considered 5D or 3D? I'm seeing like
they're numbered 1D, 2D,
that's
3D,
right.
4D, and 5D.
So 3D, 5D does not mean 3-dimensional, people. And I am now remembering that that was just the numbering of the card itself. So 92, that was a big Marvel Masterpieces year, and that's again. A lot of people who are listening to this are probably like, oh, I'm familiar with this because I've seen the Upper Deck version that just came out. Now, when this first came out, it did not have PMGs in it, right?
No.
But in the Upper Deck version, they do have some PMGs
yes.
in there. So that was a difference in that newer, they call it the 92 Marvel Masterpieces Platinum Edition. Is that right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so that one, I ended up checking just to see if that has like much resale. I was kind of surprised to see like the 1 of 1, say for Electro. So sold on February 9th. So as of the recording of this, that was 1 day ago. Sold on Super Bowl Sunday. The Electro 1 of 1 gold PMG sold for $2,800. I mean, that's pretty impressive for. To be fair, Upper Deck was putting out some nice looking cards, but they were putting out so much Marvel, so many Marvel variations. It felt like it was hard to find a lot of value just because there was so many different cards that were coming out that it was hard for collectors that did collect them to pay much when they knew they could get just another version of it or something similar to it in another card set that would come out in the next few months.
Right.
So to know that some of these PMGs were still selling for in the thousands of dollars is pretty cool, considering is how high some of these PMGs got. And that's kind of, let's fast forward from the original Marvel Masterpieces up to the Fleer. What Well, I guess it's just Fleer Retro, right? That's
Right.
when the first PMGs came out.
I think I'm not 100% positive. At that point in time, I wasn't really collecting, and so as far as the comic cards work, and so I didn't find out about it until after they'd been out, and really out of my price range on buying comic cards right now.
2013 Marvel Fleer Retro from Upper Deck. That was the first iteration of Marvel having PMG cards. Okay. And those were some of the most valuable Marvel cards that ever were sold. Back in 2022, if you're not already familiar, that was, again, we already talked about that being the highlight, the peak of the Marvel market. But some people don't really realize, like, what does that mean? Like, what kind of numbers are we talking about when we talking about Marvel hitting its peak? We're talking about six figures in the sense of, like, some of these Marvel cards, like, so Spider-Man 2013 Fleer Retro PMG. So green was out of 10, right?
Yes.
So out of 10 sold for $168,000 on May 21st of 2022. That can still buy a house in a lot of places in the country. That was graded a BGS 9, to be fair. So, you know, it was not even gem mint, or I guess BGS 9 is mint, but still. That wasn't just a one-off. So you had a blue, which that was out of 50?
Yes.
So a blue Spider-Man that sold in January of that same year for right at $100,000. You had a number of other ones that were selling in the 90s to $80,000 to $90,000 range. You had some complete sets. Now, granted, they made these in a few different years. So looking at the PMGs, they came out in 2013. I think 2015. Granted, I'm seeing mainly 2013 and 2017, but I have seen. Like, say, for instance, there's a 2015 Fleer Retro Marvel Metal Blaster of Venom. It was a 1-of-1 that sold back in 2022 for $94,000. I'm guessing 2015 is just not as popular of a year, because when you look at the cards that sold in 2022 of PMGs, they were mainly from the 2013 and 2017 set. Granted, those were for the higher ones. There are 2015 ones that sold for like $50,000, which is basically nothing, right? It's basically, right? It's garbage. I don't even want it. I guess if you want to give it to me, it's fine. But that's what's crazy though. These cards today, they're selling for like 10% of that. I mean, how the mighty have fallen is the phrase that comes to mind.
You know, market correction happens, and it's sometimes a good thing. I mean, for actual collectors, market correction is a good thing,
right? Like, I mean, it's definitely a good thing too when you think everybody who knew everybody, even at the time. I remember we were talking about this on the Sports Cards Nonsense podcast, that at that time, PMG Marvel cards, if you were looking at a graph, it would be like a roller coaster that just went straight up and then inevitably came almost straight down afterward. After the, say, 2022 into 2023, they just fell off significantly very quickly. And it does stink that there are people that got left holding the bag. But at the same time, I mean, no one ever got said, like, hey, that guy specifically was the one who caused, you know, a market pump and dump or something like that. Anyways, there's a person that spent a lot of money on a few of these sets, and they said, like, oh, he's doing this to pump the market, and because he was also at this time posting a lot about this, like on social media and things like that. I don't know if he actually was able to take advantage of it, or if that was the plan, or if any of that is true, but that was a rumor that was going around at the time, I recall. But it is a good lesson that if you're a card collector and you don't already know this, if it seems too good to be true, sometimes it is.
It is.
Weirdly enough, sometimes it's not. That's the problem, because sometimes you pull a 1-of-1 out of a hanger pack at a Target or something of a card set that you're not even familiar with, and you find out, like, oh, it's worth thousands of dollars. That seems too good to be true, and yet that happens. But I guess when we're talking like 5 and 6 figure cards, Marvel Fleer Retro was what they were calling it in 2013, 2015. They changed the name where the product that PMGs were in 2017 to Fleer Ultra instead of Fleer Retro. So they kind of switched up naming. And then, like we talked about, you're still seeing PMGs in the new Upper Deck 92 series that was not originally there. So that has died down. You're seeing other cards like the 2024 Marvel Topps Chrome release that came straight out of the UK that was not released in the US because they did not have licensing. You still see some of those that went for 5, 10, 15. I think the Spider-Man, one of the Spider-Mans at least did like 20 grand or more. I mean, there's still some cards that do some really good value. In fact, I pulled a 1/1 Carnage from the 2024 Topps Marvel set that is actually going to be, it's funny enough, I wasn't thinking of plugging this for the guy, but I pulled it for a guy that was in a break of mine, and it is goes live at Golden here in the next few hours on February 10th. So he put it up for auction. It's about to go up. I think it starts at $1,000. So, I mean, there's still value in a lot of the modern day cards, but bottom line is collect what you want to collect. And the art in some of these is what guys initially chase, but then that art gets followed up by value. And so it just compounds, right? And people start spending way too much than they should. But at the end of the day, these are some of the most popular Marvel sets that have come out that I felt like we should talk about, because we've talked about a number of historical sets so far on the show, and we'll continue to have to talk about more of these, because when you look, there are literally hundreds of Marvel sets out there. And we didn't even talk about any of the actual movies or shows. I mean, I have like 2 Spider-Man 3 boxes, like from the movie with Tobey Maguire. Mm-hmm. I've got 2 boxes of that I think I got for like $400 each or something. But it's because they have like Tobey Maguire autos in there, and like J.K. Simmons, Elizabeth Banks, James Franco. Oh man, it's got a number of well-known names in that set, and it's like, oh, I want the autos from some of those guys playing those characters. That would be amazing, right? And so I bought those boxes at a time where I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to open these for myself or I'm going to do a break with them or what, but they're right now just sitting in my cabinet.
I would venture to say, being an early Marvel movie, it's probably going to have Stan Lee autos in there.
Oh, it does. Cameos. It does actually have Stan Lee autos in there. That is a fact. I forgot that those were in there. Yeah. But the early, I think it was like Rittenhouse and a few others that came out in like the early 2000s. Because I think that one was like 2007, 2008. Iron Man was another one of those. The first Robert Downey Jr. auto in Iron Man. Mm-hmm. I think that one does like maybe $5,000 or something like that.
And those autos are on card.
Exactly.
And they're not sticker autos. So that's always a plus.
Marvel is such a cool collectible, and it is one of the reasons, obviously, why Topps got the licensing for it so that they can put out products. And we already talked about the X-Men 97 that's going to be coming out here in the next few weeks. Hopefully. That's going to be it's officially now. Well, unless it gets pushed, but the sales, marketing materials out there. They've already done pre-sales for it. So it's coming. But I mean, I'm already seeing, I think guys, I talked to a guy who said he bought it off the website, the Topps website, before it sold out, and it sold out in like minutes. I think it was going for like 120 a box, which is reasonable. But then I've already seen resellers that are listing it for like 220, 230 and up from there. So it'll be curious to see what it comes out at. But it's got staying power. It's a very popular IP. And for non-sport card collectors, it seems like you got to have at least one Marvel card somewhere in your collection to be complete. But all that being said, that is your Mike Midgette Marvel Minute. Thank you for coming by the way. I appreciate this, especially the day after Super Bowl. And I talked to a guy. There's a guy up in Portland. There's a TCG shop up there. Have you been up there? You're familiar with it?
I haven't been up there yet, but yeah.
So in Portland, Tennessee, there's a card shop. I'm trying to get this guy that I talked to for like probably 20 or 30 minutes to come down and just talk about TCGs, because that's something that, other than Pokemon, we haven't really talked about on the show. And I think it's probably going to be like out of his comfort zone necessarily, but I think I'm going to get him in here. But I had him lined up, and then it was like, well, on Sunday I wasn't hearing back from him, and then it turned out he couldn't come, and I was like, well, dang it, I've been wanting to talk about Marvel, and you were very gracious to come last minute to come down here, so I do appreciate that.
No worries whatsoever.
I hope the audience appreciates the Marvel knowledge to go along with it. But next week, we'll be back. Another great show. Again, continue to reach out. If you guys don't know this, YouTube has these shows, full episodes, the video of them. If you go to the Hobby Nonsense YouTube page, you guys can check that out. If you do, I just have to ask that you subscribe to it. That'll help me, and it'll help all of us to continue to get great non-sport content, right?
Yes.
There you go. Mike, that's where you say yes, and you did it. Great job. All right, there you go. All right, this has been Hobby Nonsense. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.